I received an email this week from someone who was asking a question about their best friend who appears to be very socially skilled, but thinks they might be on the autism spectrum. The question was, can someone who appears to be very socially successful actually be autistic? And I'm here to tell you the answer is yes. Today I'm sharing some of the main strategies that I used unknowingly to pass as neurotypical, especially in my high school years. It appeared that I blended in so well socially that I actually received the social honor of being homecoming queen. We'll unpack how I did it, go over some of the top ways that especially females mask or camouflage in order to appear neurotypical, address how that actually harms the autistic community, and I'll provide a link to a questionnaire that you can take at the end of this video to see where you may fall when it comes to masking particular autistic traits. I'm even going to share a little bit from one of my journal entries that I found from years ago. So keep watching for more. If you're new to my channel, I'm Taylor with Mom on the Spectrum. I started my channel after I was diagnosed with autism at the age of 31, and I was trying to pass as neurotypical for a long time, but kept finding myself in therapy, kept finding myself researching psychology, taking all the tests in the world, trying to figure out why my brain was so different than everybody else's around me, until finally I realized that I was autistic and had it confirmed with a professional diagnosis in 2020. I started my channel as a way to help provide resources for other people like me, especially autistic females and moms, because there aren't enough resources and support out there for us. You can help me in this mission to expand autism awareness and acceptance by liking this video, subscribing to this channel, and joining the community in the conversation below. I think you'll find that there are a lot of like-minded people here who show up to support and encourage the autistic community every day. Your support really does mean the world to me, keeps me going, and helps me continue spreading the message that being autistic is a way of life. We don't want to be changed, we just want to be understood. You can find more of my resources at my website, momonthespectrum.net. So first off, what is homecoming? If you can't already tell, I live in America, and in the South, we have a tradition called homecoming that we celebrate in a very grand way. Homecoming is an opportunity for older students who have graduated to come back to their home schools. We celebrate it with a parade, a big football game, special performances from the band, dance teams, and extracurricular groups at school. It's a big deal. Police shut the streets down, and sometimes the whole week leading up to this, there's dress-up days, and we even have an exchange of something called mums. They're huge, ornate, way too expensive creations that we wear for one day. They're heavy as lead, pinned to usually nice dresses, and worn all during the school day. Many times they have cowbells on them. Now it's like a contest to see who can make the biggest, most outrageous mum. Lights that are battery powered. You wouldn't believe what some people put on these mums. But anyway, along with the celebration of homecoming comes the very distinct honor of homecoming king and homecoming queen. And as you may have guessed from the title of this video, yours truly was nominated for homecoming queen when I was a senior at my high school. This is not something that I have shared with, I think, anyone who has only known me as an adult, because why does anybody need to know that I was homecoming queen? I feel a little bit silly talking about it, but I share that with you all today solely to communicate that yes, someone can appear very socially adept and be on the autism spectrum. Now, I had no idea that I was autistic at this point, though I did find some stuff written in journals from back during that time that showed that I was aware that something was going on, and I'm going to share more of that with you later in the video. But I had all of these tactics in place that I'm just now realizing I was doing in order to pass and just make it through my day-to-day commitments and responsibilities as someone who is seemingly neurotypical. If you're already part of my community, you may have already been a part of this discussion through the community tab on my YouTube channel, where we are talking about ways that we have masked in order to appear neurotypical. I'm really excited to see where the conversation leads in the comments below, because y'all all had such great feedback about ways that we've coped in order to make our lives work. So I'm really interested to hear what y'all have to share in the comments, and be be sure to scroll through them because I think you might be surprised to find that you may relate to a lot of them. And many times I find that people on this channel can put my experiences into words that I never knew how to communicate about. So make sure you check out the comment section here. But let's jump in. One of the first things I did, and still do to this day, that I think set me apart and helped me communicate in a way that makes me appear successful, I write notes to people. I've always done this. Rather than talking one-on-one, I like to communicate what I want to say to someone in writing. I will email, I'll write cards. This is something I've always done when I give gifts, is I'll write cards that I've really thought about and put a lot of time into. I did this at school. I still do it as an adult. If I'm part of a conversation, especially in a group, it's really hard for me to insert myself or know what to say or be able to find the right time to contribute it to the conversation. So I'll make a note of it. And it's hard to manage all of these thoughts that I want to keep and act on later. I'll remember that thought, go home, I'll send an email or I'll write a card and I'll deliver it to that person to let them know, hey, I was really thinking about what you said here. I appreciated your perspective and wanted to also share that I've been through something similar. So I think I was able in a lot of circumstances to appear very social because I was connecting to people and sharing important information with other people, but that didn't always happen face to face. And in fact, my preferred method of communication is in writing because I feel like I have time to understand the response and I have time to really say what I'm trying to say, and I don't have to think about any of the social cues involved. Where are my eyes looking? What is my body doing when I'm talking to this person? All of that goes away in writing. I also think my quirky sense of humor kind of helped me get by. So in high school, I had this really weird habit. And if anybody from high school is watching, this is giving away one of my secrets. I might be solving this mystery, the answer to a question you've been asking for a long time. Who was it that threw tortillas in my yard? So one weird thing that I like to do, I guess when I was trying to get a friend's attention or be a part of the social order of things in my own way, I decided that it would be fun to tortilla people's yards. So rather than putting toilet paper in trees, as some are accustomed to do, I tried to find something really cheap and affordable that you could get a lot of quickly to cover someone's yard, and that just happened to be corn tortillas. So I would go to Walmart by myself and buy as many tortillas as I had budgeted for, probably $10 worth of tortillas, which is a lot of tortillas. And I would drive myself to a friend's house and I would just throw tortillas all over their yard. And I thought, this is really fun. I don't even know if anybody knew that I did that, but that was one of the weird things that I did just to feel like I was a part of something. I don't know. I also like to put Post-it notes on people's cars. This I did with friends, my band nerd friends, and we'll talk about that in a second. But I've also covered people's cars with Post-it notes. I liked to play little pranks that I felt like kind of helped connect me to the community. I think this also kind of goes along with things at school like dress-up days or big projects that we'd have to turn in. I always like to really connect to the theme of things. So I always dressed up. I always like to participate in the special events. I like to be in character. And I think participating in those school-wide things made me feel like I was more a part of things that were going on. But underneath it all, this was all really a game that I was trying to play correctly by following all the rules that I was picking up on in front of me. One of the main ways I did that was by playing the role of the shy, smart kid. So that's what I was labeled as from the beginning of time. She's just really smart. She's super shy. She's gifted. I don't really think that I'm shy. Honestly, the more I think about it, I'm not a shy person. I love being on stage. I'm fine talking in front of people. I have always been in leadership positions. I actually don't consider myself shy at all. And that's a realization that I've kind of come to as an adult where I'm like, oh, that's so interesting because I really like talking and I really like sharing my opinion, but doing that in social situations is really hard. I don't think that makes me shy. I think autistic is completely different than shy, and sometimes autistic can get mislabeled as shy. Obviously, there are a lot of things that are different between those two things, but I have heard that many other people on the spectrum were labeled as shy and smart, but nothing more than that. So I passed as the shy, smart kid who just sat in the corner and didn't talk. Really, I was trying to avoid conversations. I did a lot of listening. I feel that I'm a really good listener and I ask questions. So rather than having the attention deflected back on me, I would kind of do a preemptive strike by asking the other person questions and having those questions locked and loaded so that there wouldn't be the opportunity to reflect the conversation back on me where I would have to respond to unplanned for questions or social situations. I also compliment people's clothes a lot. I love your sweater. Those are nice shoes. Where did you get them? So anything physical that I can see on a person's body, a lot of times I will compliment those things. They are genuine compliments. I won't say something if I don't like it, but I've always found this to be kind of a way in with people to let them know, like, I might not know how to talk to you, but I can at least let you know that we share something in common. Whether that's a sense of style, whether that's the car they're driving. I always try to find something physical or tangible that I can point to and say, hey, I appreciate that about you, because I feel like that automatically helps connect me to other people. After that, I don't really know what to say, but at least it's a start. Along with that, I've always used smiling, I think, as a way of managing in social situations. So anytime there's like downtime or I don't know what to do, I just kind of smile. And I might not even really want to smile, but I do it to fill the gap and so that people don't think that something's wrong. Because I think my default is kind of maybe RBF, resting beep face, you know what I'm talking about? I think that's my default. So I cope by smiling even when I don't want to, and by also being very agreeable. And this is something I'm really getting out of the habit of now because I'm trying to be more true to myself and feel what I feel and think what I think. I had gotten in the habit of being agreeable. I think that I'm much more assertive than I was ever able to show when I was younger because, again, I was labeled this shy, smart kid, so my assertiveness hadn't ever really come to the surface because I didn't allow it to. So now I feel that I'm able to show those colors much more frequently, and I love it. I love being able to speak my mind, share my opinions, and know that I don't owe it to anybody else to be agreeable, especially if it means compromising what I think and feel. In high school, I also didn't know how to be friends with the girly girls. So I don't mean to stereotype with that phrase. I'm just trying to communicate. There's the type of female that just seems to be really great with hair and makeup, and they understand boys, and they're always in a relationship, and human beings that just have different preferences and different outlooks on life than I do. I don't know how to connect to those people. So in terms of the popular kids at school, who many times kind of gravitate more towards that profile, I didn't know how to approach those people. But I have always kind of defaulted to kindness. And I feel I can say that honestly. Like, I feel like kindness is something universally that people will gravitate towards. And I feel like probably since I unknowingly was kind of on the outside looking in my whole life, I'm very sensitive to when other people are on the outside or they're having a hard day or they're going through something difficult. So I would put it in writing when I noticed somebody would be having an off day, and I'd let them know, slip them a note. Hey, I hope you're having a good day today. I love the shirt you're wearing, going back to my other tips. So even though I didn't understand how to be friends with the more popular group, I still did have some popular friends because I would be able to reach out to them whenever they were having a hard day or be able to offer some type of encouragement or support to them. In school, I said yes to so many things that I did not want to do because I thought that was the way the game worked. You say yes to things so that you can succeed and be on the top and get good grades and be number one and have the right transcript so that you can get into the best college. And so I played the game and I said yes to everything, even though I was exhausted all the time and dealing with a lot of anxiety. In that same vein, I said yes to a lot of leadership opportunities. And this I don't really regret. I love being in a leadership position. I've always enjoyed being able to be in a place where I can speak for other people who need representation. And also, I think being in a leadership position in school allowed me to communicate with my peers without necessarily having to be on their level. And I hope you'll understand that the way I mean it. Like, I didn't consider myself above other people, but my role was different. So I didn't have to participate in the small talk and figure out what everybody's really saying. They would present things to leadership, and then I, along with the leadership team, would be able to implement, make plans, do more administrative things that served the social network, but I wasn't necessarily in it. And I think that actually helped me a lot. When I would interact with people, I would also, and I still do this today, I don't make eye contact. I usually look, I think, right at the cheekbone. I actually, I've thought about it before. I'm not really sure where I look, but it's not in the eyes. If I make eye contact, it is always intentional. I never make eye contact unintentionally. Like, I'm always intentionally not making eye contact, but you know, to kind of study this, sometimes I will intentionally make eye contact, like with my husband or someone safe, and it is so uncomfortable. Like, it doesn't matter if I feel safe and accepted by this person. It could be my best friend, family members, whatever. If I'm looking them in the eyes, I do not hear what they are saying to me. So if it looks like I'm looking in the eyes, I'm not, because I can't, because it totally weirds me out and like shuts down my functioning. One of you mentioned this in the comments on the community tab, using a polite voice. Oh my gosh, this goes along with the agreeableness. Yes, I feel like I'm just now kind of coming into the voice that I feel comfortable using every day. And you might even notice it on this channel, like sometimes I go into this more polite young voice. And I do think that that's a mask, because I think that I'm afraid to be assertive or afraid to say the wrong thing or do the wrong thing. So I use this pleasant kind of younger voice that might make it seem like I'm not really saying anything hurtful or being weird. I'm just kind and shy and sensitive. But I'm trying not to do that anymore, and I'm becoming more aware of it, because I do think that the polite voice is a mask. I'm still trying to figure that one out, and I slip into it without knowing a lot of times. It's really annoying. This is a side note that's super random and might not be accurate, but I also feel like that affects my singing voice. I love to sing, and I feel like for so long I've suppressed what my voice is supposed to be, that I feel like there's like this big gap in my vocal strength and what I'm able to accomplish vocally. Like, not that I'm like this practiced vocalist or anything, I just recreationally like to sing. But that's one thing I've thought about. I'd be super interested if anybody else feels like they know there's something else possible with their voice that they haven't tapped into yet because they've masked with their voice for so long. Weird side note. So yes, I was shy and smart. I was also very polite, and I just didn't talk very much. I would daydream in class about talking to my teachers. That was my desired social network. Older adults who I could talk about deep things with. So I would have these daydreams in my mind of being able to just hang out after class and engage with my teachers about things that really mattered and things that I could think about and do kind of mental gymnastics with, trying to learn new concepts. I didn't even have the social capacity at the time to really approach them for conversations. Like, if there would be an issue with a grade, I always had to like work myself up. Probably not that day. I probably couldn't do it that day. I'd have to go home and kind of think through what I was going to say and how I was going to say it, and if it was worth actually saying something, because maybe I should just eat it and not deal with it. So I would have to kind of go through this process of like, okay, I'm going to talk to my teacher, I'm going to do it, I'm going to figure out what to say, and I'm going to write it down, and I'm going to say it out loud, I'm going to make sure that it works okay. And then the whole next day I would be anxious because I'd know, oh my gosh, after school today I have to ask Miss Smith this question. And it would be all I could think about even while I was taking tests and stuff. So much social anxiety. I also didn't really cry when I was younger, and now I cry all the time. Therapy. No, but really, I think I needed to cry. I think I needed to cry a lot more than I allowed myself to when I was younger, because I was so overwhelmed with all of the things I was processing, and I didn't know what to do with that. And I think I cried alone in my room. That sounds sad. I cried alone in my room more than people realized that I did, but I just wouldn't allow myself to cry in front of other people because I guess I thought that was weak or unacceptable. So now I cry a lot, and I know that that's just one way that my body processes all of the stress that I'm taking in. And that's another video topic that you can learn about. Just as a person on the spectrum, I'm constantly taking in a lot of information through my senses. It's like this whole intricate system of give and take so that I can balance everything and still be able to focus on what's in front of me. And that can make me cry sometimes. Yeah, just kidding. Okay, here's another one. I copied what other people did. And this is how I developed my biggest special interest. I was laughing about this as I was preparing for this video. I developed my biggest special interest because it was me copying someone I wanted to be friends with. This was in 6th grade. Laura, she decided she was going to play the flute. And she went to the instrument fair, the band directors tested her, and she was fit for the flute. So she signed up for it. I didn't even know about the instrument fair. I didn't really know anything about band. I hadn't thought about being in it before. But I heard that Laura signed up to play the flute. Laura was somebody that I wanted to be friends with. So I told my parents, I want to play flute. Doesn't matter that I had missed all of the sign-up stuff, all the band stuff. My parents helped me figure it out, get signed up. That summer, Laura decided that she was no longer going to play flute at the beginning of the school year. We weren't friends, really, and she didn't tell me. So I showed up on the first day of school with a flute that my parents had rented for me, and Laura had switched to oboe. Oboes suck. No, I'm just kidding. I am an equal opportunist. I love all instruments and wish I could play all of them. But if you are an instrumentalist, especially in band, especially in Texas, you know that there's a lot of pride around your instrument. Flute's forever. I'm in a mood. So I had a flute. I couldn't get rid of it because my parents had already signed a contract. And guess what? I played the hell out of that flute. I was so good at it, to the point where the teachers were like, you have to put her in private lessons. This doesn't happen often. I'm sharing that because I know so many people watching can understand that sense of I have a special interest and now I'm the best that there is at this special interest. That's just how our brains work. We go from 0 to 1,000 and there's no turning back. So I got so good at the flute, and that carried me through school. That's what I fell back on. Band here is intense. It is a full schedule. There's stuff before school, after school, weekends, and I stayed busy, and I think that helped distract me from all of the stress internally that I was dealing with. So I excelled in these special interests. It gave me a great community of people. Some of you have brought up this point before. I think that neurodivergent people can tend to find each other without knowing. I actually had a conversation about this. 2 of my friends contacted me recently, and we were all band nerds together, and we were having this conversation. Hey, do you think we found each other because we're all neurodivergent? And I really, really think that that's a possibility. Again, if you're a band nerd, and I say that with all the love in my heart, there are a lot of neurodivergent people who play instruments. And so I think that was a big safety net for me. Again, I was in leadership positions there, so I had a lot of opportunities for other people to come to me that helped me form relationships with them. So band, I think, really carried me through in a lot of ways. And they were the huge supporting faction that voted for me when it came to the whole homecoming queen thing. So that was a big part of how that played out. The other last few things that I wanted to mention, I hugged when I didn't want to. I still do that sometimes. I don't really think I'm a hugger, which is really weird because I'm in the South. I'm a woman. My inclination is to take care of other people. I'm not a 2 on the Enneagram, but I am a 2 wing, if you're wondering. I'm a 1 with a 2 wing. There it is. I'm the best one that ever was a 1. Little Enneagram humor for you Enneagram fans out there. I forgot what I was saying. I don't like to hug, but I've always hugged because that's what Southern women who help other people do. We hug. I'm trying to give myself more grace there now. It's hard at family functions because that's kind of always the go-to. Hey, you entered the house, hug me. Hey, you're leaving the house, hug me. I'm usually comfortable doing that, with my close family, but when there's like 30 people at our family event, it is so overwhelming to be like, bye, 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 bye. And it's very, very overwhelming. I also did a lot of mirroring. So in a conversation, I'm always watching the other person's face to see how I should respond. So, oh, yeah, that is really interesting. Or what? Are you serious? Like if somebody's eyebrows go up, I'm always like, so I'm always watching other people's faces to figure out how I should respond to what you just said, because my natural MO is just kind of like, oh, But I like mirroring. I even have fun with it sometimes. Like a lot of times when I get really invested in a character, like on TV or in the movies, I will start thinking of myself as that person, and I might even say things the same way that they say them, or do body language similar to how they interact with other people. At the moment, I'm rewatching New Girl for like the 4th time, and I'm feeling some Jessica Day vibes. And even, I don't know if you're like me, but I love personality tests, and I used to take them all the time, especially when I was younger, to try to figure out more about myself. But I started realizing I would answer the questions based off of the most recent characters that I had really identified with in literature or movies or TV. So it's been a process for me to be able to peel that back and be like, wait, is that really their characteristic or mine? And to be honest, friends, I am still learning how to answer those questions. And then lastly, I journaled a ton. So I recently went back and found a lot of my journals. which is pretty overwhelming. Young Taylor had a lot of emotions, especially a lot of emotions that I was not talking about, but I sure did journal about them. And I think that was one way that I really coped with a lot of the stress and anxiety that I had, along with my faith at the time. I was brought up Christian, and in my journals, they're filled with scripture. So I would just write. I get a lot of comfort out of writing, especially with a pencil, mechanical pencil. I get a lot of comfort out of writing things by hand, and so I would write scripture after scripture on anxiety and stress and giving my cares to God, and so many prayers of like, please help me with my anxiety, please help me with my stress, why do I feel all these things, which is kind of heavy to share, I know, but I know that there's probably many of you watching who deal with that same thing, so I feel like it's important to share here. But I did want to share one brief section from my journal entry that I found the other day that I thought was really interesting. Okay, so this would have been 2007, and I came across this journal entry and I was amazed at what I had written. Just to reiterate, this was before I had any idea that I was ADHD or autistic. There are a lot of things that I'm frustrated with about myself. I feel awkward when I communicate with almost everyone. I never say what I really want to say. I really think I have some type of disorder. My mind can never stay focused on one thing because there are too many thoughts going in my head. I put way too much emphasis on what other people think and feel. I always feel the need to excel. These are just some of the things I've written. This is YouTube, so I'm not going to get into all of it. Those things alone don't scream autism, but in the context, looking back and seeing that, it's easy to see how I was suffering under the weight of not being diagnosed. I was dealing with all of these issues that I didn't know what to do with. I didn't know if something was just wrong with me, and I felt like I couldn't do life the right way, and I was really struggling. And I think being undiagnosed and not having the information that I needed when I was younger, I think is a big part of the reason that I dealt with so much anxiety and even depression in some seasons. And that's really sad. And I know many of you are also noticing some of these things for the first time in your own lives too. But back then, even just 10 years ago, we did not have this information that we do today that helps us see, especially for females, yes, we can be a homecoming queen and still be autistic. So I'm here to sound the alarms and say, hey, let's not assume, this goes for everyone, autistic or not autistic, let's not assume that people are what they look like on the surface. Let's not assume that people who look successful and skilled are not struggling on the inside. Some simple things that we can do are ask questions. Don't assume that you know things about people without asking and hearing it from them personally. Come from a desire to learn. If somebody is weird and quirky and you don't understand them, you've got to come from a place of wanting to understand that person better without judgment. And if you can't do that, you're not ready to have a conversation with that person. Do your own study, do your own research beforehand until you can get to a place where you feel like you truly, genuinely want to hear where the other person is coming from. 3, we can just check on the people who seem like they have it all together. I mean, now on the other side of it, I'm like, maybe the people who seem like they have it all together are the people who are struggling the most. Obviously, that's an overgeneralization, but I think many of us on the spectrum, especially those of us without intellectual disability, feel overlooked and unseen, and like we've had so many struggles that people just have not been aware of. And so it's time to start doing more research. It's time to help the autistic community out by not depending on them to do all the work. Listen to our voices when you're researching. Try to discover if the author of what you're reading is actually autistic or works very closely with the autistic community. Preferably autistic themselves. There's a hashtag you may have heard of, nothing about us without us. It's very important to learn about autism from autistic people. There's a lot of misconceptions out there. There's new research basically every day on what this looks like and presents as, especially in adults, especially in females. And it's time to start taking more of the responsibility of understanding it, because culturally, socially, economically, it all comes back to how we treat other people, how we support other people to be the best versions of themselves, to be the most successful versions of themselves. And we can't depend on marginalized people to be the ones to educate everyone. A lot of us are doing our best. Some of us are in a place where that's not available to us because we're already carrying the weight of just trying to manage and survive in this world that is built for neurotypicals and has a lot of judgment towards people who don't fit the mold. So if you're watching this and you're not autistic, please take a step forward today by doing some of your own research. You can watch more videos on my channel. I can also post links to other autistic channels in the description. I'll post a link to some other autistic resources in the description. But we've got to start doing more work, because to go undiagnosed for 30 years, and I'm one of the people who got an earlier diagnosis. Like, there's people active on this channel who've gotten their diagnosis at 50 or 60, and all the way up to that point is a lifetime of wondering, how can I really get the help that I need? How can I communicate what I need so that someone can actually truly understand me? And that can be a really long, lonely journey. If you feel like you have some of the traits that I've shared with you today, there is an interesting questionnaire that I'll post a link to in the description called the Camouflaging Autistic Traits Questionnaire, the CAT-Q. And you might find that really interesting. It can give you some more information as to autistic tendencies that you might have. The website that it's on is also full of tons of other questionnaires and tests that you can take that will give you more information about where you may fall on the spectrum. Supporting autistic people is so important, and I'd like to ask today that you support me again by liking this video, subscribing to the channel if it was helpful content for you. You can also visit my resource page that I'll post in the description. I have several free resources for the autistic community. I also have a big resource, an 11-page guide called the Meltdown Survival Guide. You can select your own price. It's donation-based, and you purchasing that Meltdown Survival Guide is a great way to support me. You can also support me via PayPal, as many of you already have, which has been so incredible and a tremendous gift every time I get an alert in my inbox that there's been a donation. But my PayPal account, you can reach at paypal.me/mom-on-the-spectrum. Let me hear in the comments which of these traits you resonate with, or if there's some that I didn't share that you feel like are important to add to the conversation. I'd always love to hear those. Be sure to check back every week for weekly videos that I post about autistic living and all things autism. Always happy to hear suggestions from you in the comments. Thank you so much for watching. If you live life on the spectrum like me, you are not alone. Your brain is a gift, and together we can learn how to better understand and care for the unique and many times challenging gift that we've been given. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!